Okay, so we got the whole yard unpacked. Everybody's situated on the pallets just as they were last season, so they're kind of ready to go. From here on out, what I'm gonna do, actually I might come back in a few days and grade them 1 to 4, obviously like I mentioned before, 4 being the strongest, 1 being the weakest. What I'm gonna do with these bees is equalize them over the next week or two. If there's a couple that are just hanging on to life with a little bit of bees and a queen and they just need some extra help with some brood and bees, when I equalize is to make sure that these colonies really are on their first generation of brood. Maybe they're just starting to work on the second generation of brood for the season. So you don't want to equalize a population of bees that need the injection of fresh bees into that population. You want to start to equalize once you have colonies that are into that second, third generation of brood and where they have that population, that nest that is established. My idea is to kind of wait a couple weeks once they start getting phenomenal injection of pollen. I'm watching these bees right here. There's, pretty much any bee coming back to the hive, I'd say they're coming in, you can see there's some pollen. Well, a lot of this pollen is coming in from willow, aspen, the red maples and silver maples are beginning to flower. So there's just some really good pollen sources that are coming in. And actually, if I gave them pollen patties right now, some of these do have pollen patties on them, they're just turning their nose up at it. That's the beauty of the environment here that I'm blessed to live in, is there's so much natural resources in the beginning of the season for pollen and nectar, especially in the next 2 weeks when you get red maple, and then out behind red maple, you're gonna have dandelion. But regardless, these bees need a couple of weeks to build up, and then I'll go and equalize them. And I kind of determine that by the brood and how these bees are building up, when to equalize, start to equalize. So just to give you an idea what's happening, on each grain bag, I have the corresponding breeder. If you're running a legitimate breeding program, you need to identify all your queens. You want to know how they're performing in all aspects of your apiary and all aspects of your management scheme. So every nucleus colony has the family or the breeder queen that came from last year. All these are the same. They're all OK Golds. And all my notes are in the on grain bags, on inner covers, or attached to the colonies. That's just kind of been the best way for me to identify and keep track of things. This colony, I'm not sure how strong they are. There's probably 5 frames of bees there. And right now I want to make sure if they have some weight, which there's some weight to this, and I can look down in between the combs and I see capped honey. Right now everything is perfect. I don't need to do anything to this colony. With an injection of fresh pollen, and they're raising brood. I can feel the heat coming off of them right now. These girls are ready to go. I'm just gonna button them up. I'd grade this as like a 2 or maybe a week 3 if you're gonna go like 1 as weakest, 4 to strongest for a grade right now as they stand. So let's see what these guys look like. I haven't looked at these bees actually since we put them away for the winter. We just unpacked them, took the insulation off, and we're looking at what we're looking at here. These bees, about the same kind of population, a lot more honey left over in this. Actually, this is what I like to see, is what's the food sources? What are the resources left behind in these guys? The cluster starts in here, and it's from here to here. They're definitely down deep in this box. Yeah, they're heavy, they got some weight, and there's plenty of honey in there. I don't need to do much with that. And we'll get a couple of covers. So we wade through the beaver pond here. What do these guys look like? Get a cover ready. These guys are a little stronger than their neighbors. I mean, these guys are probably pushing 6 frames of bees. They kind of go down from out of the sunlight. But what I want to show, I want to see if I can find you guys some, like what they look like when I make them up. There's 2 nukes in a box. So I think these guys are a double. There's a couple of them scattered around, but this is what's fun. If you can get these bees to make it through the winter, there's 2 colonies in a box here. Look at that. You got the feeder down the middle, and you got this boosted pot. They exchange heat all winter long, and they kind of act as one solid cluster through this divider, this division board feeder. And then you come through into spring and you have these nice, robust populations. Obviously there's a bunch of them that sometimes don't make it, but it's nice having them winter like this because you can just sell these as it is, or it's sometimes fun just to sell the equipment as it is, 2 nukes in a box. You got to be careful you sell this stuff too, because if people don't know what they're doing and they're strong, they asphyxiate in the box as they move them around, or they swarm in a matter of days after they move them into their equipment. So you definitely want to sell this stuff to beekeepers who know what they're doing. But these guys are going to need more room really quickly. You can see that there's bees wall to wall on this nuke over here. Same thing over here. What do they weigh? They got some good weight. Yeah, they could go, that's quite heavy. They have a lot of resources. Something like this I need to be very careful with. I need to get back here and give these guys, I need to take this, one of these colonies need to come out into their own deep all by itself and need to be expanded soon because they are very strong. They're ready to go. I'm actually going to label them right now. my kind of orientation of what these guys are. That's a 4, and this is a 4. So I got 2 4s in that box.